Okay, I am here. I'm on just a couple minutes before 1:30, hoping this is going to hold. My laptop is having some issues, and I just ran a update, and it may or may not collapse in on us, but I'm going to wait a second and see if I have sound. I did not turn the blue snowball mic on, so hopefully we're good to go. And today I'm just going to go over the panels and hopefully we'll get this sewn together. I am going to cheat and use the sewing machine so that this will go together pretty quick because I want to be off in time. Thanks, Joyce. I want to be off in time for Yolande at Devon Rex. She comes on at 2:30. And then at 3 o'clock, Shannon Art Junkie comes on. So I'd like to be done, before 2:30. So that's why we're going to cheat and use the sewing machine today. And I do not have it set up to where I can show you at the machine where I'm sewing. But after we look at the blocks, I'll go ahead and lift it up so you can kind of see my setup, because some people like to see the setup you have. I have my room divided in arts and crafts are toward the back of my work table and sewing is behind me. Hi, Leah. Hi, Marty. So let's just look at the blocks. I have done some pre-sewing and we'll talk about that. I just don't want this to be a really long video, and some of the stuff I did is a repeat of what we've already done in a previous video. So to save the time. So this is the bottom of my bag right here, this square. It contains no buttons, no beads. That way I won't scratch a table or something when I set the bag down. So y'all saw that, and we painted the hearts red with ink tints. So let's do this upper square here. This one has everything. It's got the hearts on it that are painted. It's got buttons. And I added beads. You see sparkly beads. And I also added spirals to my big stitch circles. Now, I didn't do it on every single one of my stitched circles because I had already put some other stitching up over it. So I didn't want to stitch the spirals over them. So now you're going to notice I'm going to turn this and put it down, because if you think about when you're laying your bag out, the bottom is here. If you put that face up, then you want all of your other pieces with the bottom of that block. So you don't want to put it like this, or everything you have on it, when you pick the bag up, it's going to be upside down. So I'm going to turn it so my bottom's there. Then we're just going to come around and I'll show you each of the blocks. This is the love block here. And again, I've added beads. And you'll notice I didn't come all the way over this lace where the beads and the buttons are, because that seam allowance is there and I want my presser foot to have room to get by them. I don't want to break the beads after I hand sewn them on. But what I might do after I get my bag together, because I'm doing a lined bag, I can carefully add more beads all the way up to the seam line. Once I get the bag sewn together, even when it's sewn all the way together, you can add the beads because you're only going to go through the top layer of fabric. You just gently go in. And there again, I did spirals. You can see I add some to the smaller spiral, the stitch circles. So I didn't do a ton of stitch circles and I didn't do a ton of spirals. So again, make sure the bottom of your block goes toward the bottom of the bag. And then here we go. This is another one. This is the create block. And again, I just added a few beads there with plans that if I need to, I'll add more. And I did the same up here because I left room for my presser foot. I added the buttons and everything. I had this idea of once the bag is together, I might connect the hearts with ribbon around the bag and carefully couch some ribbon that runs from heart to heart to heart to heart all the way around the bag, I might do that. I might change my mind. Thanks, Leah. Hi, Mary. Mary, Joyce, Leah, Marty, and Janet. I think that's everybody. Yes. All right. And then the last bag, block is my stitch bag block, where I use my stencil and I put them and then stitched over it. Got just one little spiral on here because right here you can see I had already done all the stitch work and I didn't want my spiral to cover that. So that's why the spiral didn't get stitched here. So what you're going to do is we're going to take these blocks, and I'm doing one at a time, okay? And you'll see my yellow fabric underneath, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to put this on top of the bottom block. Line your edges up on the side you're going to sew. Get them lined up. And I'm just going to put a couple pins to hold it in place. All right. And then I'm going to stitch. And remember our lines we drew here? Where they cross, where the corner is, that's where you're going to start and that's where you're going to stop. So these two sides, like if we stopped right there, you can see this is going to be loose. You want that. Do not sew edge to edge. You will be in the biggest pickle you've ever found yourself. Hi, Marguerite. So you're going to stitch from the corner where you marked your stitch lines. I'm doing 1/2 inch, and then just sew along your pencil line and stop at the corner. Do not go in to the edge. Stop right at that corner. All right. So I'm going to lift you guys up to kind of show you where I am. Hello. Yes. Lots of love to our Janet. All right, let's go over here. So I've got my ironing board is there. I'm not going to iron on this piece because of the buttons and the beads. I'll finger press, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So let me get this in here so that I'm right at where the two meet up. And I am going to back stitch just a couple stitches. All right, we're coming up on our corner. And I keep a little piece that I can, I'm going to pull my project out of the way and then sew across this little piece. That way you don't waste so much thread. All right, so I'll grab my pins and I'll show you what I have. Ooh. All right, we'll set those down there. So you can see I've sewn from the corner, and what you see in the middle is the batting piece that's a 1/2 inch smaller than my block. And so I've got my seam along there. It's hard to see. All right. So you're going to pull this up. This is the bottom. And on your table, I want you to push the seam you just made toward the side. So let me show you what that is. I'm going to be moving the camera and hoping this doesn't break. Hi, Barbara. All right. So here we go. Like this is how they were put to sew down. And see, you can see I've left these like little wings. The seam allowance is free. You want that. If you don't do that, you're going to have trouble. And yes, I'm going to press it away from the bottom. So I'm going to push it up toward this the side seam like that. And I'm just going to kind of finger press it. Then I'm going to take the opposite side and I'm going to fold it in, line up your corners and your edges, pop a couple pins in there. And I'm just going to do the same thing, and then we'll do the other two sides the same way. All right, let me go stitch this. Again, I'm starting where the two seam lines are marked on my fabric. Stop at the corner again. Woo! That did sound right. Something happened. It didn't like that. Let me check everything over here before we walk away. Make sure I haven't busted a needle. No. It just didn't like that at all. Let me try this again. Let's see if it makes a noise. Nope, sounds fine. All right. Trying to put it down the way we picked it up so you guys can see. I'm going to just press this with my fingers, the whole thing upwards like this. And then I'll just grab this one. Now, when you do the ones on the side, match the line with the edge you just sewed on both sides. And we'll pin that and sew that. Mary's balcony sewing. Now, when you sew these on, what I do when I'm at the sewing machine, I make sure the back of my presser foot is on this line that goes this way. So like the presser foot's here, the back of the presser foot is on that line. That way, I keep all this seam allowance free. And then you're going to sew across, and you're going to stop right on that corner again and do your back stitches back in here. Don't get into this side seam. You want this to stay loose. All right. And you can see I've already done the lining. This is where it could get dicey because I got some beads a little close. Let's bring those pins over. I need to be careful about twisting my left knee. Y'all remind me, don't twist your left knee or you'll be back in a pickle. It's just now getting to where I can walk without a stiff leg feeling. Okay. Again, I'm going to lay this down, fold this up, and now you can see you're overlapping here. That seam allowance you've kept free. That's why you got to keep it free, because once we get this other side on, then we're going to just sew up our sides, and they have to be free. Okay, so we'll bring this one on. Again, line your line along where you've just sewn, like this, and line up your edge across. And I'm going to just put 2 pins in. And you can see now why I didn't care if I cut my stitching. I'm locking it in right now, and some of it is going to be just floating in the seam allowance anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, let me stitch this up. And this is what we're going to have, just like this, except I sewed this one together a little weird, but it's all right. It worked out in the long run. So the lining's ready to go, but I want to tell you what I did with that. And we got to add our internal pocket before we sew the sides up. So I'm going to get the bag to the same state as the lining, and then we'll work on the pocket and the little widgets that go for your rope to run through. And I'm going to tell you, if you want to know how to do the twisted fabric rope stuff, go over to Catherine's channel, please, and give her some love and learn from her on that one, because this is really her project that I just loved, and I wanted to make one for myself and thought I would share my process of it with you. But I will tell you, my process, Catherine's process, and Marion's world, we've all done the rice bags now, and each does them just slightly different because they do complete hand sewing, and I'm cheating. Alrighty. I've got the door open to the catio so the cats can go in and out if they want to, because it's currently 65 degrees here. So here's our, oh, I didn't cut my my little runoff off because I didn't use it that time. And that's just a scrap from where we cut the bag apart. So let's push this up toward the side. And so now I have my bag. And before I do the sides, I want to make sure that we get our pocket on the inside. So we're going to work on that next. And we're just going to set this aside for a minute because we're going to work with the lining piece. I mean, I could go ahead and do the sides, but I'd rather, to save thread, I want to be able to sew from the bag to the lining, back to the bag, and so on. That way I don't waste a bunch of thread. K3N Cloth Tails. It's K with a Catherine with a K. I should have put the links in. I usually do. I put the links in before I start, but I forgot today. I got a little kerfuffled because the stupid computer said you need a stability update, and I'm like, ugh. All right, I'm going to set this aside. Okay. I've done the same thing for the lining here. I'll talk about those two little pieces in a minute. So I've only cut one pocket for my bag, and I made it a little bit deeper, thinking maybe some short scissors could go in here. So let me tell you about the lining now. When I pulled this fabric out to use it, it's super, super thin. Like, it's really thin. So I lined it with some of the shirt tailor interfacing. It's going to make my bag just slightly stiffer. It's not going to be stiff, but still, I stabilized this with some interfacing. That's why it's not as floppy as it was in its natural form. So I'm going to put these. So this is my stitch piece, and this is the the gingham that I chose, and I'm going to put them right sides together. And I'm only going to use a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to leave just a little opening at the bottom, and I'm going to sew all the way around, and then we'll turn it through the little opening. Well, we'll clip the corners and then turn it, and then we'll sew it on to one of these sides, like right here, maybe. I could probably come all the way to the bottom of the bag and sew it. But I'm just going to pick a side and stitch this on. You need to do this now because once you put it together, it's going to be impossible because you won't be working on a flat. You'll be trying to get in there and, it just ain't going to work. So let's put some pins to kind of hold this together. And I don't put a ton of pins. Like 1 pin to a side is plenty. And I didn't put a spiral on this piece because it's going to be inside the bag. So that's why it doesn't have any of the additional stitching on it. So this almost gives me my base bit. All right, so remember, I'm going to leave an opening at the bottom. You'll notice I've got a heart up here. I want to make sure that's right side up. So if I leave the opening down here, and when you start and stop, go back and forth like 3 stitches just to lock it in, because we're going to be kind of rough on it pulling the pocket through. Hi, Safia. It's a magic trick. Yep. All right, so let me sew around this. If I was smart, I'd bring Mr. Hedgie over here with me. And yeah. One more stitch. There's some pins. And to decrease the bulk on your corners, you cut your fabric away at an angle, but don't cut through your stitching. See, like that. And you do that on each of the 4 corners. I will say your machine stitching. Don't worry about your embroidery because it's locked in with the sewn seam. All right, now I've got a tiny little opening to turn this through. Hi, Carol. So let's see if we can get this bad boy turned through. It's a pretty small hole. I could have left the hole on the side and left it a little bigger. Let me see. Can I get it to turn? This is the question. Slow and steady wins the race. If you try to force it, that's when you get in trouble. Chopstick. Chopstick, chopstick, chopstick. I had one. Wonder what I did with it. That's okay. Greg's got like 500 of them in the drawer. I'll just go grab another one. Chopsticks. The non-sewing store sewing tool, a chopstick. I like these because the tip is kind of rounded, so you don't damage your fabric quite as badly. And we'll just start shoving that through there. There was somebody who was asking, what are some of the tools you use in your sewing space that weren't bought at the fabric store? I said, chopsticks. Slow and steady. I am asking it a bit much to go through that tiny little hole. And you just don't want to pull hard. There we go. Slow stitching, slow turning around. And you'll see some fuzzy bits, but that's just some of my fabric patches looking cool. Looking cool. I can get in there with a chopstick and get those points turned out. And then I'm going to press it on the lining side, not on the painted fabric side, because I don't want to get any paint. It should be dry and set, but I don't want to risk it on my iron. So I'll just iron it on the lining side. So I'll put it face down. So there's my little pocket. And then I'm just going to poke, poke, poke. That way you get a nicely lined pocket for the inside of your bag to hold whatever you want. I put 2 in the one I sent to Joyce. So she has a place for needles and floss or whatever she uses it for. All right, there we go. Let me go iron it real quick. And I'm not going to worry about sewing that close because when I sew the pocket down, all of that will get sewed right together anyway. So I don't worry about sewing it closed. It's just an added step you don't need. I have my pressing cloth. I might try pressing this other side, but it's okay. So that'll hold like a little pair of scissors. See, that's not a little pair, but you know what I mean. So I'm just going to put them on this side over here. And I think I'm just going to line this up with one of the stripes on the bag. And you can tell I didn't get that pulled out far enough. Might have to press it one more time because this should be straight across here at the bottom. Yeah, let me try again. Close enough. Close enough. Now remember, you only need to sew it on 3 sides because if you sew it on 4 sides, you won't be able to put anything in it. It'll just be a patch. It won't be a pocket. So think about how this is going through the sewing machine. It'll be the side less bulk next to the inner part of the sewing machine. So yeah, that looks pretty straight. And I'm just going to sew this just a little ways from the edge. I want it held down. I don't want it to take up all of the internal part of my pocket, if that makes sense. So I'm going to sew it real close to the edge, like 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Well, Safia, you know, it's the pair I had on the table. And I'm using kind of a beige thread on top and a green thread in the bottom because I don't have a ton of bobbins for this sewing machine yet. So I'm using what was already full. I don't bust a needle. Don't sew over your pins. It's bad for your machine. Oh, Becky, you didn't think that out loud. But it's okay. At my top edges, I did do multiple stitching to make sure that that pocket doesn't pull loose at the top. You know, that's always the danger with pockets. All right, so there's my little pocket. Isn't it cute? If I can get a hold of the thread, I'll show you what I mean. See, I used the beige on the top thread, but my bobbin is lime green. So you can see there's a lime green thread. But it's all going to be inside the bag, so it doesn't matter. Not like I'm top stitching with it. All right, so let's sew our sides up. So what you're going to do is you're going to get two adjacent sides. You're going to take your bag and kind of fold it on the diagonal on the bottom. And then you're going to kind of fiddly bit work your seam out here. Match your corners and edges. It is a little fiddly. Be patient. Put a pin in down here. And again, we're only going to sew from corner to corner and leave the top edge clear. Okay, so edges are matched. So I'm going to take this over to the machine. I like to use just 2 pins. And I'm going to sew. You keep all of the other 2 sides and the bottom. You've got it folded out of the way. So you're going to start up here and you're going to stitch from where those 2 lines meet just to where these 2 lines meet. That's why you wanted all of these seam allowances free. If you stitched over those, this is going to be nigh on impossible. Hi, Kathy and Barbara. Yes, I too love Kathy's doll. If you guys have not seen Kathy's doll she's working on, it is adorable. All right, so let me stitch that. But before I go over there to stitch that, let's go ahead and do it on our our bag pieces too. Let me see. That's a YouTube message. I'll get it later. Again, fold your bottom on the diagonal. Then work a little bit at getting your 2 seams to match up. Pull and get your bottom seam out of the way. And I'm just going to put a pin in there to kind of hold that. And then I'll go to the top. And I might shift this bottom pin once I get it laying flat and nice like I want it. Get my edges at the top matched up. Edge at the side matched up. All right, and this I'm going to shift this. All right, and again, I'll sew from where they meet to where the bottom is. And you just want to make sure these other 2 sides stay out of the way because we're going to go 1 seam at a time around until we have 2 things that look like buckets. Okay? I'll be right back. I wish I had a second camera set up where I could bring you guys over here, but I don't. So, sorry. just going to move that one out of the way, and I'll pick up the other one and start at that top corner. Get this pin out the way. Always have your needle in the most upright position when you're pulling things out of your machine so that you don't unwind and mess your tension up in your bobbin. You always want your needle in the most upright position. All right, so here we go. Ow! That one pin was the wrong side up. I just jabbed it way into my thumb. Oh, I mean, oof. Oof. Felt great. Anyway, oh my word. All right, again, I'm just going to show you. Hope I won't bleed all over it. I've only sewed, I can show you on the green side, from there to there. Now we're going to open the bag back up and do this next corner. And as you go around, you're going to notice that it's going to get just a little bit more difficult to keep the other sides out of your way, but you need to do that or you'll be unpicking. Is it unpicking or is it picking? Think about that. Okay, kind of get them matched up there. All right, so there, we're getting it. It's coming together. And I like to sew them and then bring them to my table and work at getting them. See if when you straighten it back up, all this works out. Get your upper corner together. There we go. All right. Plus, another reason I like to do it one at a time is I have a tendency of stabbing myself. Have y'all noticed? I got 2 more after this, and then we'll have what looks like 2 pieces of bag ready to go. Get this in here. Come on, little feller, behave. And don't sew into the bottom of the bag. Just make sure you stop at that corner. Because if you sew down into the bag, you'll have to unpick it loose. I'll trim the threads all at the end. All right, back again. Go to the next corner. Line your top up. And if you pop that bottom, this will pop down, and then these two come free. And that's really what you want. You just have to wrestle it a little bit And then once you get it to where the fabric will work with you, it's real smooth. But if you try to fight it and force it and this, that, and the other, it doesn't work. All right, so that's pinned. We're almost there. See, coming together. Go ahead and line your top up here. Get you a pin. And see, I'm going to lose some of my hand stitching into the seam allowance, but I knew that was going to happen, so I'm not fretting about it. And it gave me something to do while I watched Johnny Depp movie Transcendence. It was quite interesting. You can see when you know you're doing right when the bottom of the bag's points down, and then these other two kind of flap out and expose where you need to be. Then you can put your pin in. All right. I might go ahead and pin this too while we're here. We'll see if I can not stab myself when I'm at the machine with the added pins. I'll go ahead and pin this last side in, and then I'll just quickly sew them up. Again, you can see the bottom will point toward the bottom. The sides will kind of go out, and that's what you want. That's why you don't want to stitch them down. I can't say that enough. If you go over and you try to sew from edge to edge, this is not going to work for you. I'll go ahead and do this one too, and I'll just do the last 4 seams all at the same time. Then we're going to talk about our tabs. All right, the tabs, if you want to write this down, are 2.5 by 3.5. No, 2.5 by 3. And what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 out of your fabric or a contrasting fabric and 2 out of your lining. And we're going to sew those together. And I'll show you what we're going to do with that in just a sec. I'm going to take Hedgie with me this time. Where are the pins? Find pins. There we go. I'm afraid if I tried to do that with all 4 sides and then just come to the machine, I know I would stab myself. I'm going to look at chat when I come back and see if you guys have any questions thus far. So stick them in there if you do. It's like following the bouncing ball. Follow your pencil line. It's kind of harder to do on the side that's got the batting, but and cut this one loose. This one. you should have 2 buckets. At least that's what I call them. All right, so go ahead and turn them right side out. The outside one, turn right side out. So we can just do the voila. Hi, Eternity. I have put this whole project into its own playlist, making your own fabric, painted fabric or something like that. Can't even remember the name of the playlist, but that's what I've done. I've tried to make sure to put these each in there. Let's push this down. Push it down. Push it down. Oh, I like it. See, there's my little bag. All right, so now what you're going to do on here is that last 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and fold it in, and you need to baste it, or yeah, you just want to baste it down. I'm going to get some clips and put them on here because clips won't stab me. My hands are so sore from slow stitching right now. All right, so I just have some of these Wonder Clips. And because we have the batting on the inside, you just fold over the batting, and that's the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm just going to put that around. And I do like to hand baste this. But I want to show you guys. Pick a direction for your corners to go, or fold it back on itself like this. And then fold that down. So each half is folded over there. And then fold this one down. Fold the seam toward that other side and then down. Just so you don't get like this huge pile of seams stacked up. You can also, since we're doing the lining, you can put the bag in one direction and the lining in the other. But my lining is so thin, I want to go with the thinnest option I can do. All right. So I'm going to fold that over that way and then fold that down. And I have a Band-Aid on because I stabbed the dickens out of my hand until it split yesterday. So slow stitching can be a violent sport. Again, I'm folding that seam allowance from the side over, and then I'm going to fold this down. That's just to reduce the weight on the corner. Isn't that funny? That cute little piece of fabric's going to be on the inside, but that's okay. Oh, the 3 stray cats have just been returned. Now, when they do that here, the SPCA will come out, and it's like $75 per cat. And what they do, if they're stray cats that you're willing to feed, you know, just dry food or whatever, they'll fix them and bring them back. But what they do to make sure everybody knows they've already been spayed or neutered, they usually clip their ear. They clip a section out of their ear just so that, you know, somebody's not sending them in to be spayed and neutered again and they've already been done. It's a real headache. Most of our strays have, I guess, disappeared. We had a bunch of cats from next door coming over. There was 6 cats total coming to the side door in the mornings. and they've all left now. I guess the males have like beat each other up enough to where this has been known as, there's like 2 male cats now that fight in the yard, and they're all strays. I feed them because I feel sorry for them because it's freezing cold. I won't bring them in the house though, because I already have 5 cats and that's enough. And I can't afford to do anything more than give them a little food and fresh water each day outside. Not my cats. My cats are wickedly spoiled, and they know it. All right, so I'm going to baste this, but as I'm basting it, I'm going to attach my little, I'm going to baste my little thingamabobs. Let's talk about those real quick, and then I'll do the lining. You need the 2 pieces, one of your lining and one of your fabric, or a fabric that's kind of, what do they call that? Kind of goes with your bag. But I had that block of fabric left from where we made the bag, and I still have quite a few scraps. I was thinking of doing artist trading card. Maybe we could set up a swap to do. I'll have to see how many ATCs I can swap with people. And that way you'd have a little remembrance of this project if you want to swap with me. Anyway, you're going to put these right sides together. So the 2.5 is running just like an ATC, and then the 3, instead of 3.5, it's just 3 by 2.5. I want you to sew 1/4 inch from each side, and then you'll turn them out. So you'll end up with something like this. Press on the lining side, and then we're going to take these and fold them in half. And this is where the little rope or cording or whatever you decide to use goes. And you just kind of find your middle on your sides and take your little loopy thing folded and put it about in the center of that side. And I'm just going to put a clip on each corner like so, just to hold it in place. Like so. Then I'll turn it and I'll put another one. I've got 3 out of the 4 made, so I'll go make this 4th one. And you decide which side you want, your little loopy to be. And I'm going to put that in the kind of in the middle over here. You want it halfway between your side seams. So there's a seam and there's a seam. You want this to be kind of in the middle, and you only need it to be about as deep on there as your the 1/2 inch that you put in. So it's a 1/2 inch in. All right. So then you get all your tabs on here. Again, I'm just folding this in half so that the 2 bottom ends are in. And then I kind of eyeball my center here. I'll put this in here. And if you need to adjust these when you get to them and you're doing your basting, you can. Oh, it needs to come over a little bit. There we go. Now I need to make the last loopy thing. And I will probably hand baste these on here like so. All right, let me go make that other thing. I'll leave this so you can kind of see the little loopies right here. And that's where you're going to run your cording. So let me sew this other together, and it takes a minute to get them flipped too. It's a very small opening again. Uh-oh, yarn thread chicken. I'm not going to get this bag made with the thread I have in here. I have another spool I can use. This kind of works out good because this will open up a couple bobbins for some of those other projects I have. Oh, my needle just came on thread. Let's get the needle all the way to the top. Alrighty. I do like this needle threader, but I like the one on my quilter's white quilter star better because you just kind of lay it across on all of that and it just shoots it through. And this one's a little bit more fiddly. Ooh, there's not much thread left in there. Oh, well, if I'm going to hand baste this, that could take some time, and it's already 2:30, isn't it? Yep. Yep. All right, let's move this so you can see. This is what you'll have. You got your painty fabric on one side and the yellow on the other. And I'm just going to try to get this to turn. Again, it's another one of those. The turtle will win if you take your time. If you try to be the hare, you'll rip it, and then you'll have to take it apart and sew it again. And yeah. All right. So now I'm going to work it flat as I can with my fingers and take it to my ironing board, and I'm going to iron it with the fabric up, the lining fabric, not the painted fabric, because I don't want to get the paint, just in case. I don't want to get any of the painted side onto my iron. Iron, I think, went to sleep. Right, so it's nice and flat. And bend it in half. And if you want to see exactly how Catherine made it, you can visit her Japanese rice bag. And it has a name, but I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. A Japanese name. And Catherine is really good at announcing those, or pronouncing them, but I am not so much. Okay. So I will baste this on with thread, and I'm going to do the same thing on the lining, but with the lining piece, don't turn it right side out. Leave it wrong side out, okay? So let me get rid of all these threads. The ones that are on the inside of the bag don't really matter, but I'll know they're there and it'll irritate me. There'd be some home ec teacher that would look, you didn't snip your thread. Okay, so go ahead and push your bag so it's standing up like a bucket. And go ahead and do the same thing on this and fold this down a 1/2 inch, and you can fold on your line. And go ahead and baste this. So I'm just going to pin it real quick, or clip it. Not pin it, but clip it. I love these clips for something like this because I don't get stabbed. Getting them out, though, is sometimes a pain in the neck. Yeah, neck. So just do the little like basting stitch like Catherine does, where it's big on the back side where you're not going to see it and little on the front side. And once you get your basting all done all the way around, you're going to set your lining inside your bag. So I'll just show you that here. I was hoping to get this totally finished today. Stupid computer needing its brain updated. What if we just stopped what we were doing and just got an update? Don't you know our bosses would be angry? What are you doing? Getting an update. You're supposed to be working. I can't help it. I'm getting an update. I could use that. I'm getting an update. That's why I'm standing here. Because I'm such a smart aleck, as my grandmother would say. Quit being a smart aleck. But it's so easy. So easy to be a smart aleck. Makes life a little bit more joyful. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing or not. I'm not even paying attention. Sorry. Oh, Janet, that's wonderful. You're trying to do the right thing by the kitties. It's nice that they'll do that. I just hope they don't end up billing you, because that would suck. I tried to build a shelter for the cats next door, but they won't use it. Greg bought the materials to do it, but Mom ended up being the one to put it together. It's just a big Tupperware, and we put some of that pet bedding in it. They say don't put blankets in them because the blankets hold moisture. It can actually make the cats freeze to death. I didn't know that. I looked up all these rescue options. It's one thing if it's in a dry building, but if it's just out in like an old styrofoam cooler or something like that, they can freeze. I didn't know that. They said use straw. It's like, okay, because it dries out quicker. All right, I'm trying to get this all clipped down. I'm going to baste this all the way around, and I'm going to baste the little loopy things. But when I come to a loopy thing, let me get over here and show you. I'm going to, when I go to baste through here, I'm going to try to baste and get really close to the bottom of this here and not go up quite so high, so that my basting stitches is down toward the bottom of my loop. Because when you come through, I'm going to hand stitch the two together by taking the lining and put it inside like this. Line up your corners once you've got it basted. Oh, I got to stand up. Line that up. All right, line up your corners, and you can use your clips or pins and get everything lined up good. Takes a little fiddling. But anyway, you're going, when you do your hooking the two layers together, you can do it anyway. I think what Catherine did is she just did what do they call that stitch where you just do overs? I can't remember what it's called. Carol, what's that called? Oh, she had to run. Where you just go over the edge, and then when you get to this part, you sew the outside to this side of your loop-de-doo, and you sew the lining to just this side. Don't try to go all the way through the loop. You just sew to each side. That's why I said make sure you baste your loops lower than you do your turn down. Not a blanket stitch. It's just where you just go over and over. Oh, there's a name for it, but I can't remember. But that's how you hook your two things together. And if you want a real detailed instruction, whip stitch. Yes, thank you, Carol. Brain's like mud today because it's raining. So thank you for the assistance. Do a whip stitch around your edges. If you want to, you can do some decorative stitch, down lower. You can go all the way through to the inside if you want to, or you can do, but you want your two edges where the two meet like this. You want those two sewn together. And she just did a whip stitch on those. And then the tabs, she sewed this side of the tab to the outside, this side of the tab to the inside with her whip stitches. And that way you're not trying to sew through all of that. But that's all that has to be done. And then whatever way, if you want to go and look on Catherine's channel for how she does the twisted cord, you can make your own twisted cord, maybe using some of your fabric. I really don't have much left. Or you can use some bought twine or something like that. But just take your time. Once you get this basted, it'll be a lot easier. You won't have nearly as many pins or pegs on it. Let's get you up here. Here we go. Oh, bye, Carol. Heather and Carol. So this is what you'll have. And then when you run your cord through, I did it at the corners. I started on this corner and then I threaded through the opposite corner. And one, you'll go around this way and back out over here. And then this one, you'll start here and go around this way and come out here. And then when you pull them, it draws this all up like that. So I think it's going to be something I cherish for years. And there's the bottom. See how, that's why I did the viney stitch in different directions on the bottom. So it looks like it just grows from the bottom up the sides. I just think it came out cool. So baste is next. And then do your whip stitches on the top and your bag will be done. And I would love to see pictures of the bags if you guys are making one. Oh, the other thing I want to check, you can see right here, even after I get my bag done, I can add a few more beads. So I have beading all the way up to my seam. I just didn't want to get real close. And see down here, I could add some more beads right there to fill in that little place and right there. So I do have some hand beading left to do. But other than that, I am thrilled with this. And there is no better praise than what you get for your partner, from your partner. I'm telling you, if you have male or female, I don't care what your partner is, if they take the time to cherish your work, keep them. Because Scott's like, I just love it. He's just giving me compliments like crazy on this. And he's one of those guys, he loves to go to Lowe's just to look at paint colors. So for him to say he's really enjoying this project just makes my heart happy. So anyway, I will see you later. Don't know what we'll do next Wednesday, but we'll do something. So if you watch Devin Rex, she's already on, and Shannon will be on at 3. And I will see you guys, if not Saturday night with Scott. We might do our Saturday night, late night chit chat with a beverage. It'll be 6:30 a.m. Monday. So I'm going to put me down as 6:30 a.m. Monday morning, 1 o'clock on Wednesdays, and then possibly a time with Scott late night. So probably it'll be after Beth goes off when we pop on. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Later, Gators.